Maybe that's what you mean by balance. Can they balance on one leg? Probably not. You will hate this. Nearly being at the end of 2024, there is still so much misinformation out there about the carnivore diet, and we're going to react to some of it today. We're going to first go to the authority on BS and getting your articles ranked in Google, WebMD. And the reason I want to take you to WebMD first is for two reasons. First, it's because this is where the average person goes when they've got some health or diet related question. They'll type a search into Google, and because WebMD has been so good at getting their pages ranked in Google, they'll inevitably end up there to get their trusted information. The second reason is there's a paragraph in this article that stood out to me, and I really want to talk to you about it. Carnivore diet, meal plan, food list, and what you should know. Okay, so this has been reviewed recently. So this is their current feeling about the carnivore diet, August 26, 2024. What is the carnivore diet? On the carnivore diet, you cut carbohydrates and eat nothing but meat and other animal products like beef, chicken, pork, fish, I thought that was meat, and eggs. The idea is that by cutting all carbs, your body will burn fat for energy and you'll lose weight. Other claims of this diet are that it can fight inflammation, lower blood sugar in people with diabetes, and improve mental health. Yes, yes, yes. Check, check, check. This is what I wanted to talk to you about. These two paragraphs. The carnivore diet is a very restrictive way of eating. Okay? It doesn't align with the dietary guidelines of Americans. Is that why people on a carnivore diet look very different to other Americans or other Westerners? Which recommends eating fruits, vegetables, and whole grains along with lean protein from animal sources. How's that working out for them? Cutting out entire food groups could leave you short on the nutrients you need to stay healthy. Nutrients like what? Sugar? What other nutrients are there to be missing out on? Vitamin syrup? When you eat carbs, your body turns them into sugar to use for energy. That's right. But what happens when you're drowning your body in sugar? When you're drowning your body in carbohydrate? What's it going to do? Someone that spends all their time gaming, doesn't leave their bedroom, and has sheets that can stand against the wall probably doesn't need much energy. And the kicker sentence here, the extra glucose is then stored in your muscles and liver. Yes, what happens when that overflows? What's going to happen then? After that, your body converts any extra glucose to fat. Oh, it becomes fat. Right, so now can we maybe see what the problem is these days? Your body doesn't need carbohydrate. End of story. All right, on to the second article that was published today. Okay, this one is from The Age, which is a newspaper from my hometown in Melbourne. All right, I haven't read this one, so this is going to be cold, so it might actually be supportive. Can the meat-only carnivore diet really be good for your health? Written by Sarah Berry. Oh, any relation? Maybe this could be a positive article after all. The grand final winning Penrith Panthers players believe it gave them a victorious edge. Proponents on social media call it a healing diet that can help you reclaim your health, strength, and vitality, and its popularity continues unabated, despite it being widely discouraged by health and climate experts. Oh, here we go. With large studies linking high meat consumption variously with an increased risk of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, colorectal cancer, and dying earlier. Okay, well, all right. So first paragraph in, we know where this article's going. What a load of crap. How can red meat be responsible for type 2 diabetes? Now, red meat might be something that works in combination with carbohydrate to cause type 2 diabetes, because if you're eating fat and you're eating a lot of carbohydrate together, that's not going to be a good combination for you, right? But this article is about the carnivore diet and specifically notes it's meat only. So how can a carnivore diet that is by definition meat only, and therefore very, very little, hardly any carbohydrate at all, be a risk for type 2 diabetes? If you're not consuming carbohydrate, how are you going to cause type 2 diabetes? And cardiovascular disease, that's caused by inflammation. Inflammation that's likely coming from consumption of carbohydrate, refined carbohydrates, not red meat. Anyway, so what is it about the carnivore diet that is so bad and yet, according to the people who swear by it, so good? Okay. Oh, Mike Scanlon getting his meat on. Okay. Diet of champions. There are various iterations of the carnivore diet. Some include seafood, fruit, honey. Oh, yes. Carnivore MD, carnivore diet. Eggs or dairy, whilst purists eat strictly red meat and salt only. Whichever way you cut it, there can be psychological appeal in consuming a diet of mostly or entirely animals. This may be particularly the case for athletes, says Professor Ben Desbrow, an accredited practicing dietitian and the head of performance nutrition at the Gold Coast Titans. Okay. It's not just a secret diet of the Panthers, but has become popular across various combat sports, including rugby league. It's a collision aggression-based sport, and they like being the king of the jungle, Desbrow says. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong, by the way. And so, from a dietary point of view, it plays into that sort of mindset. Okay, so what are we trying to say here? Is this like we're trying to say that it's somehow toxically masculine or something like that? If we're saying, oh, it's an aggression-based sport, so that's why they go for Muppets. He adds that restrictive diets may also serve another psychological purpose. Being disciplined in your food intake sort of separates you from the average person. Separates you from the fat, diseased person, mate. One 2023 study of more than 2,000 people who followed the carnivore diet, 67% were men in their 40s, found, well, those other 33% of women must be toxically masculine and into aggressive sports, right? According to Desbrow, or Debro, or Desi. 67% of men were men in their 40s, found few experienced adverse effects, and participants reported high levels of satisfaction and improved overall health. Okay. But there may be several physiological benefits that explain this. It helps to increase protein intake, which is important for muscle and skeletal health. It can help to balance blood sugar levels for those with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes. Hang on, in the first paragraph, you're saying it's responsible for type 2 diabetes. Get your story straight, idiots, says Amelia Phillips, a registered clinical nutritionist and exercise scientist. And like any diet, when you start to pay attention to what you eat, invariably your diet quality improves. The improvement in diet quality and what you invariably cut out accounts for many of the improvements that people experience. Yeah, cutting out carbohydrates, things improve. Oh my goodness. Cutting out the only irrelevant and unnecessary macronutrient, surprisingly, we have improvements. This is amazing. Who would have thought? If you are having a typical Western diet, a lot of junk food, refined processed foods, a lot of meat, a lot of alcohol, remove that for 6 months, you will drastically change your health, no doubt, says Professor Luigi Fontana. They've got 1 million people here. Says Professor Luigi Fontana, an expert in nutrition and health longevity and scientific director of the Charles Perkins Centre for Royal Prince Alfred Clinic at the University of Sydney. Where do you work, mate? It's going to take me all night to explain that. I'm sorry. Let's just have a drink. Is going cold turkey a pathway to better health? Mike Scanlon, a 41-year-old banker from Sydney's East, turned to pure carnivore diet nearly 5 years ago. Interesting. So he's bound to have cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes, according to the age, right? He had long suffered with autoimmune issues such as asthma, allergy, and eczema, which deteriorated into regular headaches, migraines, extreme lethargy, and anxiety. Scanlon was not celiac, and specialists were unable to determine the cause, suggesting medication to treat the symptoms. Depressed and feeling hopeless, he began experimenting with nutrition, recalling an uncle whose migraines had improved after removing gluten and dairy. When his symptoms didn't improve after trying whole foods only, low FODMAP, and GAPS diet and keto, he decided to try a more extreme approach. On podcasts and in books, Scanlon had heard people say they'd cured autoimmune issues through a carnivore diet. The argument, according to advocates, is that plants do not want to be eaten and evolved to defend themselves with toxic chemicals. Paul Saladino, a popular psychiatrist come carnivore influencer, claims these chemicals can damage your gut, inhibit nutrient absorption, mess with your hormones, and generally make you fart a lot. Yes, take note, vegans. By cutting out plant foods, along with dairy and fruit, depending on the version, Saladino and others, Saladino, cut out fruit, interesting. Saladino and others suggest people cut out the cause of inflammation and autoimmune dysfunction in the body. Scanlon thought it was bonkers, but he was desperate. From someone who once ate cereal for breakfast and dessert, toasties for lunch, and pizza or pasta for dinner, his diet now consisted of 2 meals a day, either slow-cooked lamb or steak, with biltong and hamburger patties for breakfast, followed by a ribeye for lunch. Hey, Mike, I'm a bit worried now that you're eating all this red meat, you're going to develop type 2 diabetes. I think you should go back to the diet you were on before of cereal for breakfast and dessert, toasties for lunch, and pizza or pasta for dinner. That's totally non-diabetes, type 2 diabetes causing, according to The Age. It was a revelation. He felt better. His mood improved, and except for high LDL cholesterol, his metrics at annual health checks have remained solid. His experiences, along with a newfound belief in the Saladinos of the world, have made him skeptical about traditional health advice, including that LDL is bad in the absence of plaque. Okay, I've never felt this good. I open my eyes and feel rested, he says. I don't get tired or hungry. I thought this would wear off, but it's been 5 years. Okay, good job, Mike Scanlon. Let's see who they bring in to follow up to say that it doesn't matter how good he feels or how wonderful all his markers have become, he's going to die because it's meat. Okay. A bad cut of meat. Some extreme diets show promise in treating medical conditions. The FODMAP diet, for instance, is said to help manage IBS, and the ketogenic diet is often recommended for managing epilepsy and potentially diabetes. If someone has conditions they would like to manage through diet, there is the possibility that a restriction diet may help them in the short term, Phillips says. However, Phillips, let's see what you got to say, Phillips. However, they should embark on this under the care of an experienced dietitian. Yeah, because dietitians dispense such good advice. Dietitians dispense the advice that have got us to this point, so why wouldn't we trust them? Autoimmune diseases are increasing in parallel with the consumption of ultra-processed foods high in fats, trans fatty acids, cholesterol, proteins, simple sugars, and salt. It is thought this Western diet is partly to blame. Well, it is partly to blame. You mix all that garbage together, of course you're going to have a problem. While opting for whole foods, including meat, can help, depriving the intestinal gut microbiota of dietary fibers found in fruit, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains may ultimately degrade the gut and immune system. Dietary fiber is rarely consumed in adequate amounts. Dietary fiber needs to be consumed in one amount and one amount only, 0. Although Fontana says the quality of meat makes a difference, grass-fed versus grain-fed, steak versus processed meat, high consumption, particularly in the absence of a diverse range of whole foods, is unhealthy in the long term as it drives aging and cancer pathways. Where's your evidence, buddy? Or lady? I don't know. I can't remember who Fontana was. There's so many players in this article. Fontana, where's your evidence? He points out that excessive amounts of saturated fat drive high blood cholesterol, choline, and I-carnitine, High levels are found in animal products, ferment in the gut, and produce a substance called TMAO that accelerates the formation of coronary atherosclerotic plaques. Excess iron drives oxidation and colon cancer. How about excess sugar? What does that do? High levels of methionine and branched chain amino acids activate the IGF-mTOR pathways and can promote insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, cancer, and accelerated aging. Is that true of someone who just consumes animal products, or is that true of someone who consumes animal products plus a lot of carbohydrate and ultra-processed foods? I'd say it's probably the omnivore type of person where this happens. The body has ways to compensate for years before you develop problems, Fontana says. Yes, that's why kids grow up eating all the junk they want, and, they can get into their 20s and they're still doing all right, and they're drinking like crazy, and they get up and they have a can of Coke or something like that, and then they can get to uni or get to work and they'll still be fine, right? But when they're 40 years old, that's when they hit the skids. Because the body's coped for so long, and the body's just said, okay, I'm out of power now, buddy. You can't keep doing this to me. No more cans of Coke. Balance is boring but beneficial. Balance is meaningless. What does balance mean? Define balance, idiots. When I make the point made by many carnivores that the Inuit lived on meat and did not have issues with heart disease or colon cancer, Fontana is blunt. Their lifespan was very poor. Evidence, please. And if their lifespan is very poor, is that related to diet or is that related to other factors? Please elaborate rather than just making a 5-word sentence and then going, see, you're dumb. And as for the defense chemicals in plant foods, most experts agree that the abundant nutrients they contain far outweigh any possible harm. It's all right. Don't worry about the cyanide. There's some vitamin A in there too. What are you panicking about the chloroform for? There's a little bit of vitamin C in there that's really important. One recent meta-analysis of 31 prospective cohort studies suggests that intake of plant but not animal protein is associated with an 8% lower risk of all-cause mortality and a 12% fall in cardiovascular disease mortality. The key word here is suggests. Doesn't definitively tell you anything because it can't. So suggests is like, could be, maybe, looks like, yeah, maybe we'll, let's decide tomorrow. That kind of thing. Des Brow, I hope I'm pronouncing his name incorrectly. Des Brow isn't dismissive of approaches like Carnivore, but says athletes looking for improvements in performance, body composition, or focus can typically find them by manipulating their diet without eliminating entire food groups. Carnivore and other extreme approaches are, in his view, not a long-term solution. So how can someone be on a carnivore diet for 30, 40, 50 years? How? If it's not a long-term solution. It's not a long-term solution because there's no money in it. There's no money in it for food companies. There's no money in it for pharma. There's no money in it for dietitians selling their services. There's no money in it for any of these people. So that's why it's bad. Unless you got your wallet open, it's bad. If people want to live longer and healthier lives, a diverse, balanced diet may seem boring, but is the key, agrees Phillips. Define balance. What's balanced? Got a steak on one side, and got shrimp on the other. That's balanced. Doesn't fall over, right? A hand in the middle. It's about the same weight. Perfect, right? What does balance mean to you? It's a little bit of lettuce. If I put lettuce with that shrimp and steak, is that going to be better? Or do I need to put some cauliflower as well? Is that going to satisfy you? Is that balanced enough? Or you're going to say, oh, well, that's not quite balanced. That's not what I meant. Well, define what you mean. What does balance mean, you muppet? Sorry, getting a bit heated up. I hate that, just throwing words out there that don't actually have any meaning. Unless there is a clear medical reason, no one should be eliminating whole food groups. There is a medical reason. Look around you. in 2024. Look around you. Every person that walks past you is a medical reason to stop eating the crap that you're giving them. Maybe that's what you mean by balance. Can they balance on one leg? Probably not. Except for ultra processed food and highly processed foods, which we know are actually not, which are not actually food groups. Finally, one thing that makes sense in this article. We don't need to go to extreme and cut out multiple food groups to be healthy. And we can't forget that food is there to be enjoyed. No, it's not. Food is not entertainment. Food is for nutrition. You don't see a group of lions, what are they called? A pride of lions, is that right? A pride of lions sitting around going, yeah, I was going to have the gazelle today, but, I've had gazelle quite a few times over the last month, so I'm thinking about having some cupcakes and a giraffe. Do they eat giraffes? I don't know. It'll take a long time to get through that thing. Anyway. So apparently it's to be enjoyed. So let's find a sustainable balance that nourishes not just our body, but our soul too. How is balance going to nourish your body? What is involved in balance? Right? If you're just throwing the words out there, it's meaningless and you are contributing zero value to society. Anyway, make the most of your health, relationships, fitness, and nutrition with our Live Well newsletter. You can stick that where the sun doesn't shine. Anyway, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this, guys. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to see an awesome interview, check out this video next.